You're listening to Thursday Night AMP on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Welcome to the post-SummerSlam 2014 recap right here on AngryMarks.com. My name is Stevie J, and I'm joined by the one and only Nikolai.
Yes, it is I, the one and only Nikolai, and what a show SummerSlam was.
Yeah, that's one of the best editions of SummerSlam in a while. We had some surprises, we saw some things we expected, and in the main event, we saw a one-sided decimation. So why don't we start there, Nick? Why don't you tell our listeners who weren't watching on the WWE Network or on pay-per-view what happened?
Well, if you weren't watching SummerSlam for $9.99, then there's something wrong, because this was a show that was well worth the price. And if you did not watch this main event, we saw a total of 16 German suplexes delivered from the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion Brock Lesnar.
He was so dominant that he almost won the match in the first minute. He hit an F5 right out of the gate.
Oh, I know. I actually loved that he did that. And I did not really pick a clear winner for this. I didn't do my own predictions, but this was one of the matches where I wasn't making any predictions, and either way, I kind of would have been okay with it, but I almost expected Brock to win, just not in that fashion.
No, just not the complete one-sided beating, but I'm not really that shocked by it, because if they were going to give a guy the Conquer the Undertaker's streak gimmick, and then have him go on to be a force in WWE after that, this is the kind of thing you would do. You wouldn't have a guy beat the Undertaker's streak and then come out at SummerSlam and have a half-assed back-and-forth match and lose it. You want Undertaker losing at WrestleMania to mean something. This is how they're going to make it mean something.
Exactly, and like you said, if you're going to have someone beat The Undertaker, and Brock Lesnar said it himself in all those video packages that they keep airing, if he can beat The Undertaker, then why wouldn't he be able to beat John Cena?
And Heyman had a beautiful explanation on Raw when he said the only reason Cena got the better of Lesnar the first time is because Lesnar was just coming off a bout of diverticulitis, and a healthy Brock Lesnar can't be beat. Well, he seemed to prove that tonight.
You know, when Heyman was talking, I was just thinking to myself, excuses. But after watching this performance, I'm sold.
I am too. And was I the only one, or did you notice too that during the match, Brock Lesnar seemed to be hulking up with each passing minute? He went from like pink to red to almost purple by the end of that match.
I almost thought that he had a gimmick that made him as sweaty as he was, because I didn't expect to see that much sweat just pouring off the guy from just suplexing one man.
Well, obviously, Brock Lesnar was putting 125% into each and every one of those throws. And the ground and pound, too. Whenever he jumped on Cena and the ref was threatening to disqualify him, you could see that Lesnar was really just laying it in.
He wasn't holding back, and that has to be the most dominant I've ever seen anyone give over John Cena.
That was an exclamation point on SummerSlam like we haven't had in a while. We've had some interesting finishes to SummerSlam. We had last year with Daniel Bryan nearly emerging victorious until Triple H pedigreed him and Randy Orton screwed him. So compared to the Triple H Randy Orton screw job, this one was an even more memorable finish.
And just to throw this out there, with both Brock Lesnar and Cena, they have records at SummerSlam at this point. Brock Lesnar, since being back, has now won 3 SummerSlam matches in a row.
John Cena, you pointed out on Twitter, John Cena has lost 3 in a row.
Actually, there's a correction on that. John Cena has now lost 4 WWE Championship matches in a row. I almost forgot the CM Punk bout in 2011.
Okay, so you were even underselling it. You actually gone back and revised and corrected yourself, and I'm impressed by that. It's 4 straight losses in championship matches. John Cena should not even show up for SummerSlam. He should just take a paid vacation.
It's crazy. I mean, you expect John Cena to be the dominant guy. I mean, he has a great WrestleMania record, but SummerSlam, it just does not appear to be his show.
No, it must be the time when WWE says, okay, we're going to change direction and go a different way leading up to the Royal Rumble and Survivor Series. So we got to take the belt off Cena and go a different way. And every year he becomes the victim of that.
And I think another surprising streak has ended. SummerSlam has been in LA in the Staples Center for 6 years in a row. And for the first time since the first time, it's actually not going to be in LA next year.
Yeah, we saw the ads during the pay-per-view that said next year SummerSlam comes to the New York, New Jersey market, and that's a little closer to your neck of the woods, Nick, so I have to ask, are you going to try to make the journey to SummerSlam next year?
Oh, it's always going to depend on the funds at the time, but it's definitely closer to me. I would probably try to make that as best as possible, but if it's anything as indicated as this year's SummerSlam just was, I will definitely try and make my effort.
Yeah, you and I have been to a lot of the big WWE events over the years. I've been to many WrestleManias, I've been to a Royal Rumble, I've been to a Money in the Bank, but I can honestly say I've never been to a SummerSlam. So like you, if the funds are in the cards, I'm going to try to go to the East Coast, but the way this year's been going, I can't make any guarantees on that. I'd like to go to WrestleMania next year too, but I can't even make a guarantee on that right now.
Now, see, you've got me beat on the big pay-per-views. You've been to several WrestleManias. The closest I've been to a big pay-per-view is Survivor Series twice and 1 Royal Rumble.
Well, you've been to 2 Survivor Series. I haven't been to a single one yet, so you've got me on that.
Okay, well, it's a fair trade.
I think so. But we do have other matches to talk about. As much as this show is going to go down in history as the Brock Lesnar beatdown for the ages, there were 8 other matches on this card.
And that is one of the amazing things about this year's show. Not only, and this is, don't get this wrong, people, this is including the kickoff show. There were 9 total matches on this year's SummerSlam, and all of them were singles one-on-one competition.
And I didn't feel like they shortchanged any of them, because sometimes when you get that many matches on a WWE pay-per-view, you feel like, oh, they told these guys only to go 2 minutes, they rushed through this, they're just trying to give more time to the main event. It felt like everything was actually the length it needed to be. I gotta say, whoever timed it out, whoever planned it when they were going through the execution backstage, set the perfect amount of time for each of these matches.
Yeah, I didn't feel like anything was rushed here.
No, and the one I was worried about getting rushed was probably Randy Orton and Roman Reigns, because that came right before the main event, and I thought if anything was going to get shortchanged, it would be them. And then the match started out really slowly, and I'm like, okay, they're obviously not hurrying through this, because it's been 10 minutes now and Roman Reigns hasn't made a comeback yet.
It was 10 minutes past the top of the hour, top of the last hour, I should say, and I was thinking to myself, all right, the maximum that they could go for this match would be another 15 minutes, making it end at the 25-minute mark, and it did just that, which gave the main event plenty of time.
Yeah, they had at least a half hour for the main event. In fact, with WWE Network, I don't know if those old rules really apply anymore. If they really wanted to go past the top of the hour, it's not like they have to answer to the pay-per-view provider and say, sorry, we went too long on our satellite feed. If the network wants to go over, it's their own damn network. They can do what they want, but they still try to stick to the preordained time limit, and they got it done. In fact, the replay started immediately at 10 o'clock, and they were cutting it pretty close, but again, like I said before, they timed it out well. I didn't think they rushed through Orton and Reigns. I was very happy with the finish here because I don't want to jump on the bandwagon per se and call Randy, the former face of the company and Roman Reigns the new face of the company, but it has been trending in that direction.
This match in particular, I think it did start off slow, and I think for that reason it kind of got the crowd a little died down, which I'm really surprised that this was the match before the main event. But still, once it got halfway to the halfway mark, it picked up. Roman Reigns started making his comeback. Randy Orton quelled that with an awesome mid-air counter RKO, and he even countered the spear with a real quick power slam. I think that really picked things up and got this match a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, and I liked Randy Orton teasing that he was going to repeat some of the spots he'd been doing on Raw, like going for the announce tables. I liked the sell job on that, and I also liked that, believe it or not, this may be the only time you ever hear me say this, I liked that David Arquette was there yelling at him.
I thought I saw him at one point, but I mean,
Twitter was blowing up about it. Everybody's like, oh my god, is that former WCW champion David Arquette? Everybody saw him.
Yeah, and I don't think the announcers really made any mention of him either.
No, it was the fans who picked up on that. The announcers really should have been clued in that, hey, you got all these celebrities sitting ringside. You got Ronda Rousey over here. You got all these athletes over here. And look, there's David Arquette. Why didn't somebody tell them that?
It reminds me of Money in the Bank a couple of months ago, which I actually did go to. I was in Boston, and they made mention of Jon Stewart sitting in the front row, but they didn't mention Mick Foley's daughter, Noelle Foley, sitting exactly right behind him, and I had no idea she was there.
Yeah. Again, how did they not clue in the announcers about these things? You really wonder how somebody on the headset doesn't say to them, by the way, at ringside, we got so-and-so sitting next to so-and-so. You'd think they would know that, but, oh well. I
guess it wasn't important enough.
I guess not to them, but to the fans on Twitter, it certainly was. But speaking of not important, you didn't seem to be much of a fan of Mama's Boy.
Well, I really had no opinion of him.
Oh, well, maybe it's somebody else who said they didn't want to talk about Mama's Boy, but I saw somebody said the less said about him, the better.
At that point, I wasn't really paying much attention. I was looking at the screen. I was just dumbfounded by I was just watching it. I really had no opinion on it whatsoever. I was just hoping that it wasn't going to take too much of airtime.
Yeah, I actually thought he was pretty funny on the pre-show when he came out and was introduced to all the announcers at the pre-show panel, and he kind of blew off Alex Riley, which is the appropriate response for Alex Riley. And then he said that he was training for Bill DeMott and the New Age Outlaws, and he hit a 670. And I love that line, just the absurdity of that number. Not a 360, not a 540, a 670. I actually thought Mama's Boy was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, he had a personality on him, so you can't hate on that.
No, I could actually see that guy going through developmental and becoming a real wrestler if they gave him half a chance, because he's already got the personality and he's definitely got the enthusiasm. So if he could learn how to put it together physically combined with those other two things, that guy might actually have a chance.
Well, I did like his comment on the pre-show where he said, "I may be a mama's boy, but I could still be a tough guy."
Yeah, that actually could be a good punchline for him if he goes all the way through.
So there you go.
All right. Well, speaking of people who are not mama's boys.
Oh, my God. This... I almost went out on a limb, and I was saying that this could probably be Stephanie McMahon's best match.
It's been 10 years plus since we've seen her in the ring, so if she had a better match, I'm having a little trouble remembering it.
Well, it seems like she was going through the spots pretty well and smoother than when she was over 10 years ago.
Honestly, I've seen Triple H hit some worse looking pedigrees than the one she hit.
She's hit pretty decent pedigrees on the Bella Twins.
Yeah, this is not the first time, but tonight's was really smooth. When she grabbed her and pulled the arms back and flopped down, I was like, wow, that was a textbook pedigree.
Yeah, even Triple H has been lackadaisical with his pedigrees, releasing the arms before your descent down. Stephanie held the arms hooked, even on Raw where she did it to Brie and Nikki, and even on the pay-per-view. She had those arms hooked and laid her out on the mat.
So what was the biggest surprise to you in this match? That Stephanie was the one who emerged victorious, or that Nikki Bella turned on her sister?
Neither. I was surprised by neither. I was hoping that Nikki was not going to turn on Brie, and I was hoping that Brie was going to win. But I expected both of those scenarios to either not go down or go down the way it did.
Yeah, in fact, the odds makers had Stephanie McMahon the favorite when I did my preview for MMA Oddsbreaker, and it surprised me at first, but then, like you said, I had to think, why is Stephanie McMahon the favorite right now? And the only thing I could think was Nikki is going to, in the storyline, Nikki is going to be pissed off that Brie had her suffer because she walked out and Nikki took all this abuse while she was gone. So Nikki's going to turn on her. And sure enough, that's the way it played out.
Yeah, I was actually texting my uncle back and forth during this pay-per-view, and he even called it before the pay-per-view started that Nikki would turn on Brie. And even after it happened, I said to him, I told him that Nikki's probably going to come out and blame Brie for quitting, subjecting her to all the abuse and handicap matches she had to endure, and choosing to protect Daniel Bryan and his title over her.
Right. So obviously the sisters are not going to be going on any more double dates with Cena and Bryan now on Total Divas.
You know, it's kind of sad that in a way that they never teamed up in recent weeks since they've been back on TV together.
Yeah, well, I guess that should have been our first sign that maybe things were not all gravy between the two of them, the fact that they had never worked a match together since they both came back.
Yeah, and when it comes to heel turns and swerves and the such, it always makes me wonder if they're going to align themselves with the person that screwed them over so many times. How are they going to explain that? Like, how is Nikki going to explain helping Stephanie when she got pedigreed by her? You know, it's these kind of questions that where it's hard to suspend disbelief, even though I try my best to.
Well, they're going to have a Seth Rollins-esque promo. I don't know if Nikki Bella is capable of that, but she's going to have that level of explanation where she says, I was tired of being the one that held our team together. I'm the one who put this team together. I don't answer to anybody. I answer to myself.
And you quit on me, and you chose Daniel Bryan over your own sister, and yeah,
right.
The writing's on the wall.
She really needs to sell the hell out of that. It needs to be not so much I'm aligning myself with the authority, but the authority is a means to an end because I want revenge on you.
Yeah, something like that. Either one of those would be the perfect answer to why, Nikki, why?
Well, we don't need an answer to why Bray why. We know why. He's got the whole world in his hands.
He's got the Jerichoholics in his hands, too.
Yeah, 16,000 people in the Staples Center were all swaying to the beat.
I like how they call the crowd the Bray Wyatt's fireflies whenever he makes his entrance, and you see all the camera phone flashlights waving back and forth.
Well, it makes sense because that song he comes out to mentions catching fireflies in a jar and, you know, going back to the top of the stairs and all those other lyrics, but you hear that in the song.
Yeah, so it makes perfect sense, and be it surprising for WWE to make sense in some ways.
Yeah, I know, right? We got to give them credit when they actually do. So, what were your thoughts on this match as a whole?
I think it was better than their match at Battleground, which I didn't have a problem with. Well, I know a lot of people thought that match sucked. I saw some comments that this match was no good either, but I think it was good. I think it was, like I said, better than their match at Battleground. The right guy won. Bray Wyatt got the victory. Another stat for you, Bray Wyatt wins his second SummerSlam match in a row, even though he's only been in 2, but he's 2-0 right now.
Right. Maybe he's going to go on to have an undefeated streak like Undertaker did. Who knows?
Hey, someone is bound to have a SummerSlam streak, okay?
Right. It's about time we start one. Maybe Bray Wyatt's the guy who will be the one to do it. And I like that he didn't just win the match. He dominated at the end because he hit the Sister Abigail twice. Once in the barricade and once in the ring. Maybe not as much as Brock Lesnar did on John Cena, but you did leave with the feeling that Bray Wyatt was the better man.
And not only that, but he gave a real convincing promo at the end and sang the song, got the whole world in his hands. So Bray Wyatt, the dominant victor here, very well worth it.
Right, and as you said yourself, it makes sense because we all know Jericho is only going to do a couple months at a time because he's going to go on tour with Fozzy. He's going to do his movies, his TV shows, his other gigs. So if he's going to leave, he might as well put over the guy he's feuding with before he goes.
Yeah, and he had a surprising victory at last month's Battleground. I was not expecting him to win, but he did. He got to high-five his dad and his son at ringside after the match, so I thought that was a feel-good moment there last month. But this here at SummerSlam, it was worth it. Jericho put Wyatt over. This match was a real good one to go back and watch.
Right, and you got to give Jericho those feel-good moments once in a while. He can't always come back and lose to every guy that they want to put over. I mean, at least this time it was to a guy that's been credible and established. With Bray Wyatt, I can honestly believe he's at Jericho's level.
Yeah, and Bray Wyatt has nowhere to go but up from here.
Indeed. And nowhere to go but up for Seth Rollins, too, because he seems to be getting the upper hand on Dean Ambrose every single time now.
Okay, is it just me, or were you not as excited about this being announced as a lumberjack match as I was?
I was not thrilled about it. In fact, I talked to Jordan about this on Thursday Night AMP. I felt like this was a bass-backwards stipulation that if Dean Ambrose really wants to get his hands on Seth Rollins, why would he pick a lumberjack match knowing that people could interfere? Lo and behold, what happened? Everybody interfered.
Okay, now, stipulation of lumberjacks aside, this was probably the best lumberjack match I've ever seen.
It was better than most.
It was chaotic. It wasn't just let's have a big cluster brawl in the middle of the ring. No, it was a lot more than that. I mean, the best spot would probably be Dean Ambrose suplexing Seth Rollins from in the ring to outside on top of the lumberjacks.
Yeah, that's not one you see every day. I have to give you that. But it did ultimately turn into a schmoz when Kane came in. That, I think, was when it really broke down. When Kane and Goldust went at it, and then all the other lumberjacks went in. That's when I was like, okay, Dean Ambrose should have seen this coming when he picked this stipulation. He should have known there would be a schmoz with all the lumberjacks at the end of the match. He should have known that somehow, some way, Seth Rollins would get away with using his Money in the Bank briefcase and not get disqualified. Honestly, and this is me trying to be too logical, too real sports about it for sports entertainment, but if I'm the referee and all the lumberjacks come in the ring and there's a huge schmoz, why don't you just call for the bell? Why would you let all of them clear out of the ring and then let the match continue?
No, you see, I'm going to take it a step further. You're talking about the ref calling for the bell. Why wouldn't the ref had called for the bell when Ambrose and Rollins were fighting up in the crowd, all the way up in the 15th row in the stands, and this was going on for a good 5-10 minutes until Kane came out and ordered the lumberjacks to bring them back in the ring? That should have been a count out. So I'm starting to think that lumberjack matches have no DQ or count out rules.
Yeah, maybe this is a new stipulation for lumberjack matches we weren't aware of.
But either way, I love that Kane did come down and yell at the superstars to go get them, because it is a lumberjack match. You're supposed to bring the guys back into the ring. And
Yeah, the logic there, the logic does, again, we got to credit WWE when they make sense, and that does make sense.
Yeah, and Seth Rollins tried to leave. He got carried back to the ring by the babyfaces, and then Dean Ambrose splashes on top of all of them. So, like I said, there were a few spots in here that probably made this one of the better lumberjack matches I've ever seen. And I was a little skeptical about the stipulation, but they actually performed this match very well.
I guess you've kind of talked me into it. It wasn't my favorite match on the card. I didn't really like the ending, but as lumberjack matches go, it was okay. But as flag matches go, this one I have to say was a letdown. Rusev and Swagger didn't deliver.
Yeah, you were kind of harping on the lumberjack match. This flag match was bad. And I don't want to say the whole thing was bad. I just think that this was a very much missed opportunity with this match. And what I mean by that is the fact that I don't even think WWE knew how the rules of this match was going to go. And it just ended up turning into a one-on-one contest with the winner being able to wave his flag and have the national anthem played, which I think was absolutely ridiculous. You could have had this a flag on a pole match. Yes, we know, on a pole. Oh my God, stop the internet. But if you have opposite poles with a flag on it, then you can have Jack Swagger take down the American flag and wave it around. Rusev loses, but not by pinfall or submission. You keep his undefeated streak healthy by not being pinned or being made to submit. You have the American win at SummerSlam, wave the flag, case closed.
And you know what? There also would have been a perfect opportunity for interference, because if you have to climb up the ropes and reach up to retrieve the flag from the pole, you can have Lana interfere on behalf of Rusev. You can have Zev Coulter interfere on behalf of Swagger. Anytime either one of them would get close to bringing the flag down, you could add a little suspense to the match by having them get the tables turned by their managers.
You know, and like I said, you could have the flags on a pole. It could be opposite sides of the ring. It could be on the same corner of the ring. You could just have both two flags in one corner and have both guys fight in one corner to have their flag taken down. I think that would have been more compelling.
Hell, you could have done capture the flag like in Halo, where you have to go all the way into the opponent's area and bring the flag all the way back to your area to win. They could have done that too.
You could have hung miniature flags above the ring and have them use a ladder to get to it.
There's a million ways this could have been better than what they did.
This was not a flag match. This was a singles match with winning privileges.
Right. The winner gets a little bonus at the end. It's like getting an extra $50,000 for having the best fight of the night, which this was certainly not.
And this was definitely, like I said, a missed opportunity. But the ending saw Rusev making Jack Swagger pass out in the accolade. So JBL, God bless him, he kind of little itty-bitty saved it for me when he said Jack Swagger did not quit on America.
Right. He did sell the idea. He's a real American. He didn't give up. He passed out from the pain. He didn't quit on the match. So that was minor victory in an otherwise bad finish.
But the heel wins. Rusev is still undefeated. Swagger tried all his might, and he even had a grand entrance to start. So
yeah,
you kind of made
guard and the American hero treatment. Yeah, it was a good entrance.
And they made you think that he was going to win. So that's where my heart breaks.
Yeah, even the odds makers seemed to think that Swagger was going to win, but I said it on the show with Jordan, and I stuck to my guns on it, despite Jordan being surprisingly patriotic about it. He even admitted, I'm a Canadian, and I'm still pro-American for this match. He was all about Jack Swagger. I'm like, I hate to disappoint you, Jordan, but they're feeding him to Rusev because they want Rusev to be the big heel. So I'm glad they were consistent with my vision of the booking. I just think it could have been done so much better.
Yeah, and I told Jordan this this weekend on the SmackDown Rundown, my co-host told him, who by the way did a good job on the Angry Marks podcast.
He did
this
an
past
awesome
Thursday.
job. Yeah, he's great. Go on.
He even admitted that this was one of his favorite feuds going into SummerSlam. So it was. He's right. It is a good feud. It had a purpose. It's America versus Russia. It's been done, but it's such a good dynamic of this feud. It's just the way it went down is just kind of confusing, especially with the flag match. It's not a flag match because there was no flag involved in the match.
Right. So we've done enough to bury it. Let's move on. Let's talk about Paige and AJ Lee. And this, I think, might actually be my biggest surprise of the whole show. I said it to Jordan, and I don't know if he said it to you on the SmackDown Rundown or not, because I just got it uploaded before the pay-per-view started tonight. But I believe this is what I said to Jordan on Thursday, and you can tell me if he said the same to you. It's not the kind of thing where you want to keep having the title go back and forth between the two of them, because neither one has been really established as the good guy or the bad guy. And so what did they do here? They switched the title.
No, this wasn't talked about on the SmackDown Rundown. I was surprised by this, too. More surprised by Nikki Bella turning on Brie, because we kind of saw that coming. More surprised than Brock Lesnar winning the WWE World title, because he showed his dominance. Paige winning back the Divas Championship was a surprise for me. There was another surprise, but we'll get to that in a minute. But kudos to Paige. I mean, today is her birthday. She just turned 22. This is her very first SummerSlam, and she's fighting for the Divas Championship and wins it. You can't get much happier than that. What a birthday gift for her.
Yeah, I guess maybe this will be another streak we can start. Paige is 1-0 at SummerSlam.
I mean, for anybody to win a championship at their first SummerSlam on their birthday, I mean, that's like a triple threat of good happiness.
Yeah, that's hitting all sevens on the slot machine.
I know, that's almost as good as, let's say, winning in your hometown.
Right. And when's the last time a Diva got to do that? Trish Stratus, probably. I think that's about it.
Yeah, because not even Natalya did, because she was in her hometown and it was her birthday and she still lost.
Right. Yeah, when they were in Buffalo. I almost forgot. That was Battleground.
I mean, Paige winning the Divas Championship, like I said, a surprise win, very unexpected, and the counter to the Black Widow straight into the cradle DDT that she calls Rampage, that just made my jaw drop.
Yeah, I actually like that finish a little better than the PTO.
Really? You like it better than the submission?
Yeah, I actually think it looks more impressive. It shows off more of her physical ability, because anybody can be caught in a submission. We know this from mixed martial arts, but when Paige hits the Rampage, it's the exclamation point.
And see, I like it better than her swinging slam, the Paige Turner, because for some reason, AJ does not take that finish properly, but she had a very decisive victory with the Cradle DDT.
Right. I think this was a good win for Paige. I just didn't see it coming. And as you alluded to, other things we didn't see coming, the Moneymaker losing his Intercontinental title.
Wow. This was the first shocker of the night. Dolph Ziggler defeats The Miz to win his second Intercontinental Championship. I mean, this was only a 1-month title reign for The Miz. You never see that too often these days. And the fact that, like I said, Ziggler won the Intercontinental Championship. We've seen him get losses here and there. We've read reports of him being in the doghouse. He's been picking up small wins here and there, and this feud with The Miz has just been turned up to another level, and the fact that he won, wow, the crowd just blew up with excitement.
That, I think, might be the actual reason they did it, was not that Ziggler is suddenly their new favorite guy again, and not that he's going to go all the way back up to the top, but that they know that hardcore wrestling fans like Ziggler, and they may have just thought, this is a cheap pop early on in the show to keep the crowd hot. Let's give them a title switch because they love Dolph Ziggler.
I honestly have nothing really more to add to it. This was a good match. The Miz held his own. A lot of people don't give Miz a lot of credit. I don't call Miz the greatest, but he does have great matches here and there. It all depends on who he works with. He's had great matches with Kofi Kingston. He's had good matches with Sheamus. And he's had good matches with Dolph Ziggler in the past. And this one was no different.
I agree. So then we have one other match to talk about, and that's the pre-show match, RVD versus Cesaro. Your thoughts?
Pretty much cut and dry, standard match. I think RVD going over Cesaro. At first, I was surprised, but after a while, Cesaro has been losing matches here and there, so, it's kind of sad in a way. Cesaro was on the high rise, but now he's low on the totem pole at this point. But that's not taken away from a good match that they had. It was better than the last match that they had. I don't remember when it was, but this one was better than that.
Right. RVD didn't seem sloppy in this one. Everything seemed to be in place. The only thing that really bugs me about this match is that they took a commercial break. It's WWE Network. You own the channel. You're not beholden to anybody. It's not like you're airing the pre-show on USA and they have sponsors that have to get paid. Oh, we'll go to a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with the rest of this match. You own the friggin' network. You don't have to take a commercial break to plug your own shit.
Well, you should expect this on the kickoff show, Stevie.
I know.
It's the kickoff because
they always do it, but it's always irritating.
I understand. Trust me, I understand. But it's the kickoff show. It's not just the WWE Network. It's also on Facebook. It's also on YouTube. It's also on WWE.com. And they're doing this to entice people to watch it on the WWE Network.
But why can't they do those plugs before or after the match? Why do they have to stop in the middle of the match to remind us that SummerSlam is $9.99? We already know. We already bought the fucking thing.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry. I had to get it out of my system.
No, it's completely understandable. I know exactly how you feel. I don't understand the commercial breaks during the kickoff match. It happens, but what are you gonna do? Now that I think about it, I don't think there was one at Battleground kickoff because they had two matches. You had the Divas match, and then you had a bonus Adam Rose and Fandango.
Which was like a
neither
1
of those.
minute match, so there wasn't any time to take a commercial break in a 1 minute match.
That's where I was alluding to. There was no those matches weren't long enough to hold a commercial break. So maybe that's what they need to do. Have two small squash matches on the kickoff show. That way, none of it's interrupted.
I guess so. And besides, they didn't even need for any plugs to be on the pre-show because Hulk Hogan came out at the opening of the show. Let me tell you something, brother. You can watch 6 pay-per-views for $9.99. Hogan, there are more than 6 pay-per-views in a year, but A+ for enthusiasm, buddy.
Now, see, that's where you put on the kickoff because Hogan, people who are watching SummerSlam are already watching on the WWE Network for $9.99. So you're campaigning to the people who are already watching it, unless I guess there are still a few stragglers watching on pay-per-view.
I suppose they're also doing it just so they have an excuse to send Hulk Hogan out and get the Staples Center crowd to pop for it. Oh my God, it's Hogan, Hulkamania running wild. We'll all be happy to see Hulk Hogan. That even though he's saying things we already know that we don't need to hear, it's for the live crowd to react to Hogan being there.
Oh my God, Hulk Hogan is at SummerSlam!
Right, exactly. And since he can't have a match, this is all he can do is come out and be a corporate shill.
why not? You know, he's in LA. He's on the confidential panels. There's no access this year, but he's making his rounds in LA for SummerSlam and all the other stuff surrounding it. So why not have him at the top of the show? But it was only at the top of the show. It was only at the top of the ramp, actually. It was very short. So, you know, I had no problem with it.
Yeah, it could have been worse. It could have been tedious. It was at least amusing in where it was for as long as it was, and I was okay with it. It just, like you said, really doesn't serve a purpose to plug something to the people who already are watching it on the service you're plugging. What does that do? But for the stragglers, for the one or two people who still have pay-per-view and order it that way, it'll be a good reminder that it's available, say it with me, Nick, for $9.99. Yep, you and Jordan are both perfect at doing that in synchronicity with me, because he did it as well on Thursday. So kudos to Jordan, kudos to the SmackDown Rundown, and speaking of which, why don't you go ahead and plug it right now?
Well, if you have not heard, the SmackDown Rundown was back on this weekend. We didn't have a show last weekend. There were a lot of time constraints, but I myself was on Thursday Night AMP. My co-host Jordan Garber was on the following week, Thursday AMP, so you still had us on the podcast network. But we did actually shill $9.99 quite a bit on this week's episode. It was quite hilarious. I enjoyed myself, but we ran down SmackDown. We didn't preview SummerSlam because it would have been redundant since Jordan already did it on the Thursday AMP. So we basically just talked about SmackDown and the lead up to SummerSlam, which was perfect. It was apropos. It worked out well. Jordan has stepped his game up. You know, he's doing a lot better each week. He's a great co-host. We're doing big things, and hopefully we'll be back next week, every weekend here on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
That's right. Jordan continues to step up and do big things. He's become a great co-host for you on SmackDown Rundown, and everybody should go ahead and follow him on Twitter.
Jordan J. Garber.
Jordan J. Garber, but I always call him Jordan G for short. And, of course, they can follow you on Twitter as well.
That's right, at Nikolai, Nickolye. I was tweeting quite a bit during SummerSlam. I even had the WWE stats and info retweeting some of my tweets, but, you know, that was where I had to make my correction on John Cena's losses. And hey, even during my tweet-ups for SummerSlam, the one and only comedian Gabriel Iglesias started following me, and he was following SummerSlam as well. So
really, you have Fluffy following you on Twitter now.
That Fluffy guy is now following me on Twitter, so I think that's pretty cool.
That's fucking awesome. I love that. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to turn it down. You're being too loud during the pay-per-view. Turn it down.
Oh, man. Gabriel Iglesias is one of the most hilarious comedians I've ever heard. I've even heard some of his guest appearances on Stone Cold's podcast. He's just a wonderful guy. He's such a nice guy, and you know, he's just complete funny guy, funny comedian. If you haven't heard him, go check him out.
Yeah, one of the most random things I ever saw him on was an episode of Epic Mealtime on YouTube, and they decided to make a birthday cake with chicken nuggets in the cake, and who else is going to show up when it's cake involved but Fluffy, because Fluffy loves cake.
Fluffy loves chocolate cake.
Yes, he does. So they made a chicken nugget cake, and he helped. It was totally awesome. Go look for that. Go look for us on Twitter. You can follow Fluffy. You can follow Nick. You can follow me. You can follow Jordan. You can follow everybody and enjoy all the things we have to offer you. But that's going to do it for the post-SummerSlam recap. Thanks, Nick. It's been a blast.
Hey, thank you for having me on, and it's kind of apropos because I had chicken nuggets while watching SummerSlam, so it's all connected.